right, look at that. Everything is working just the way it's supposed to. Greetings, one and all. Welcome back for another late night with me as I pontificate on all things pop culture here. And for tonight, I'm going to share a little bit with y'all some movies that I've enjoyed over the years. I started looking back at all the movies I enjoyed in my childhood and started thinking about how those movies not only affected my childhood, but pretty much shaped the culture for generations to come. Let me see here. I want to make that go away. I want to do this here, and then boom, there we go. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight, whether you're live out there lurking or you catch me in a replay. Thank you all so much for your time. Appreciate you being here and appreciate you checking me out on a later live stream or replay. Let's see here. Okay, go and hit this. Got this there. That right there. Gonna do okay. Dun, 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 dun. Where is this? This is good. This is good right there. Okay. So yeah. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Let me see. Okay, I thought I had things set, but yes. Here we go. Here we go. I had to get my list for tonight. I actually had something resembling a list of order for tonight because I was going through making like a list of movies that were important, that were impactful. And then the list became rather unwieldy, so I kind of found myself keeping it to like a top 10, but not top 10 style list. I'm going to be going over a bunch of movies in no particular order, not like a top 10 type order, but I'm going to be talking about movies that, well, we all enjoy. We all have them. Movies from our past help shape how we view pop culture and entertainment. Movies that stirred our imaginations, that made our imaginations run wild, sometimes stimulated them to a crazy amount as we had uh, imagined ourselves in far off distant lands or uh, going to the stars far beyond where no one has gone before, so on, so on, so on. Movies that made us, I'll say, a little hopeful for the future, and movies that even made us a little bit concerned about what may happen in the future. These were movies that were a wonderful shared experience with friends and family alike. Movies that shaped not only the childhood of my generation, but pretty much every generation that followed since. And for me, as I was thinking about this list throughout the day, I was thinking about it from a standpoint of movies that I've shared with my family, and some of whom are not here today, and some that have passed on, so to speak. So there's a little bit of nostalgia for me, and getting kind of reflective in some regards. Nonetheless, let's see. I'm trying to figure out where do I want to start off with. That's a good one. That's a good one right there. Let's see. I am going to start off with, yeah, this one. I believe this one will do. I'm going to be referencing IMDb pretty much for all of these movies. for tonight. All the ones that impacted me as a youngster, as a youth, growing up in the 70s and 80s. That uh, I keep going on about this, about how the Generation X, we had the best entertainment. The 80s were magical. The 70s were great. For pop culture, you can't. It's hard to beat the 70s and 80s, especially when it came to science fiction on TV. Star Trek TOS. Star Trek was an amazing series, thought provoking tales of morality and whatnot, wrapped up in a science fiction veneer, if you want to say that. We had some pretty good episodes of TOS, and then it went off the air after 3 seasons, and there we were having to watch reruns, and then along came the news that there was going to be a Star Trek movie, Star Trek, the motion picture, 1979. And of course, Trek fans back then were all excited. There we were waiting with bated breath, anticipation, just getting excited about watching Star Trek return, not to the small screen, but to the big screen. That motion picture was a great start for catching something that was going to shape pop culture for many, many generations, not just mine, but pretty much every generation since. Now, I've got mixed feelings, like many of us. I have mixed feelings about the current iterations of Star Trek, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Star Trek motion picture. It was a wonderful experience. It was deep. To me, it was deep, thought provoking, kind of mysterious in some regards. It brought back that sense of awe and wonder that made us captivated, that really had us wondering what was going on. How was this going to unfold as we were watching it on the big screen? It's great now that we've had Star Trek, the motion picture, re released on 4K Blu ray, because that's a very nice addition to any Star Trek fans' movie collection. Had to get a quick drink here to wet the old whistle. And my airborne adversaries, also known as allergies, have been bugging me all day today. They were not so bad a few days back, but the allergies are back, unfortunately. Anyway, I'll be hitting the cough button from time to time tonight. Let's see here. Yeah, Star Trek the Motion Picture was a wonderful experience. To this day, I can still remember sitting in a theater, just watching it unfold with some friends at the time. The great things about these movies that shaped not only culture today, but uh, we were there when it happened, when these things hit the theaters, hit the culture for the first time. I'm trying to think of the right term. Is it zeitgeist? That could be it. Something that just wove itself into the collective consciousness of a generation. And of course, it was really great to see all the old actors return. Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Sulu, Chekhov, Uhura. Got some clips here. I don't know if I can play the trailer or not. Sometimes I get little copyright notices from YouTube saying, no, 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 you can't really play that trailer. Or, okay, you can play that trailer even though it's copyrighted. But anyway, Star Trek is what I'm going to start off tonight with. Of course, you can't really talk about Star Trek motion picture without talking about Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Those were two great movies. They were like a 1-2 punch for the big screen outings of the Enterprise and her crew. Something for me, I can finally just reminisce and think back about where I was, who I was with, first time catching this in the theater, first time catching Wrath of Khan in the theater. Gets me a little nostalgic. Let's see, hopping right along here, moving along to my next movie. Let's see, where do I want to go? I should have formulated a little list in some kind of order, but I wanted to keep this kind of random, kind of free flowing for tonight. Yeah, I'll go with this one. Tron, the first Tron movie. 1982. Let's see. Directed by Steven Lesberger, written by Steven Lesberger and Bonnie McBird, starring Jeff Bridges, Bruce Boxleitner, and David Warner. All right, this one I will show. I'll keep it on. I'll keep the volume down. Just have this going in the background because when you think about science fiction, it's not always out in space. It's exploring another world. And in this case, the other world was inside the computer, the domain inside the computer itself. Nothing like it since, not really. I mean, there's some movies that kind of touched on the world inside a world, which is kind of what we picked up on Tron here. Let's see, there's a little blurb here. Starts off, computer hacker is abducted into a digital world and forced to participate in gladiatorial games where his only chance of escape is with the help of a heroic security program. That is about as distilled down as you can get in one sentence, but that's not a bad description for this movie. I like the stills here because this was unlike anything that came before. 1982, there was a number of movies out there before 1982, like Star Trek, that were revolutionary at the time as far as sci-fi outings, but Tron kind of kicked it up a bit in some regards because the special effects at the time were really unique. Computers were also new. They were the new thing. Nobody knew how they worked. Nobody knew anything about computers. It was just, oh, a computer is just there and it does stuff. People type away on the keyboard and icons dance across the screen, whatnot. But Tron brought us inside the world of the computer. And things have not been the same since. It's kind of interesting to think about Tron because it started giving us the concept of artificial intelligence, or on at least on the big screen, the concept of artificial intelligence or uh, computerized intelligence way before we were talking about AI in today's sense. This was artificial intelligence before we were even talking about AI today. But this was neat. This was, of course, followed up by the sequel of Tron Legacy and the third movie in the trilogy, Tron Ares, which the trailer looks really, really neat. I'm going to play this here because this is kind of a nice example of some of the computer graphics at the time. They're, of course, clunky by today's standards, but back then it was nothing short of amazing. And does it hold up to today's standards? Not really, but it's still fun to watch. It's still a fun ride. Love the interaction and interplay and the graphics here between the computer world, the outside world. There's Tron Legacy, Tron Ares, that's soon to be out in the theaters. And of course, there's Tron Uprising, a really one animated series. Unfortunately, one season long. Wish it was longer. But Tron Uprising was excellent, quite enjoyable. I'm really anticipating Tron Ares. There's not very many movies today that I am looking forward to on the big screen, like actually going and sitting down in a theater to watch, but Tron Ares is on that list. Let's see, where do I want to go to next? Oh, okay, this is a good one. Sticking with the theme of computers and computer technology and the unknown world of computers at that time, War Games. War Games was another fun movie I quite enjoyed. 1983. There's a little blurb down here. The one sentence blurb goes, a young man finds a back door into a military central computer in which reality is confused with game playing, possibly starting World War III. Let's see, directed by John Badham, written by Lawrence Lasker and Walter F. Parks, starring a very young Matthew Broderick, Ali Sheedy, and John Wood. Now, having watched this in the theater when it came out, this was fun because uh, this really leaned into the fear of the unknown when it came to computers and computer technology. Not quite artificial intelligence, but when you start delving into computer simulations and playing a game, which is essentially what all this is about. A young hacker hacks into a computer network and into a computer mainframe where he finds a list of games to play. And he thinks this is interesting and he doesn't know what any of it is about. So he starts playing computer games with this computer he hacked into. And lo and behold, it's a war game simulation program that is, oh, kind of leads things dangerously close to starting World War III. And it's kind of interesting to think about and look back upon and how far we've come, possibly, from the concepts laid out in this film to where we are today. I mean, are we any better off now, then, today, now, or any better off today than we are then? Or even more reliant on computers, the internet? I keep looking at some TV shows and movies. I like themes of, let's see, how do you put it? A reliance on technology, an abuse on technology. an over reliance on technology or technology run amok. You could say this is possibly one of the better movies exploring that theme. There are others from the 70s and 80s that kind of go into that, but this is probably one of the better known ones. Let's see, where do I want to go to next? As always, I want to thank you all for catching my live stream tonight, whether live, lurking out there, or you catch me on a replay. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share, and comment. If you've got a movie that you enjoyed from your youth, your childhood, a movie that resonated with you even after all these years, please share that. I'd like to know. Let's see, where do I want to go to next? Okay, this is a good one. A movie from way back when that I caught in a theater that stuck with me over the decades. The Black Hole, the Disney's Black Hole, 1979. A research vessel finds a missing ship commanded by a mysterious scientist on the edge of a black hole. Directed by Gary Nelson, written by Jeb Rosebrook, Bob Barbash, and Richard H. Landau, starring Maximilian Schell, Anthony Perkins, and Robert Forster. This was an interesting movie. It was kind of, it was surprisingly dark for a Disney movie. Let's see if I'm going to try to play the trailer here and keep the volume down. Essentially, it follows a crew of like a exploratory research vessel. They're exploring regions of deep space. On the way back to Earth, back home, they come across a missing ship, or what they think is a lost ship, a ship that disappeared many years earlier. So I'm going to stop it. It's kind of, some trailers are good, some are not, but this one is kind of strange. I'm trying to think of some ways to describe the black hole. It's not quite in the haunted spaceship trope. It's not like the lost spaceship trope. It's mad scientist trope. Yeah, you definitely have a mad scientist who either kills off his crew or brainwashes them to follow his orders and enslaves them. Essentially, his ship is capable of, well, hanging off the edge of a black hole, so his scientists or he can research a black hole, which is just an amazing concept. You have a ship that is capable of sitting right on the edge or like right over the event horizon of a black hole and not be affected by the gravitational pull. It's kind of cheesy in parts. It's kind of out there in parts. I remember even as a kid watching some of the special effects, kind of thinking to myself, that is not how space works. But you kind of put all that aside, suspend your disbelief, what have you, and it is pretty entertaining. The ending to this day is still something that is freakish and out there. I don't even know how to describe the ending. It's ambiguous in some ways. It kind of leaves it open to interpretation because you don't know really what happened at the end. You kind of follow them around, what happens, and see what happens to the heroes and whatnot, what happens to the villain, what happens to the heroes. But as far as something that shaped a culture, we still see themes like this play out. Notably, I sometimes think of Event Horizon. There's no direct comparison between the black hole and Event Horizon aside from a ship that is either on the cusp of a great journey or going to an unknown realm, or a ship that has gone there and come back. And in some regards, it's kind of similar because we watch one ship in the black hole go through a black hole and into an unknown realm, and we're still kind of puzzled about it. In Event Horizon, the ship came back from an unknown realm, and the audience is left kind of wondering what happened. So yeah, it's not really a good comparison, but it's just something that made me think about the great unknown, because even here there's still a great deal that is unknown about the great beyond, as this movie is putting out there. Like, what happens in a black hole? Can you travel through it? The special effects were pretty decent at the time. Like I said, there were some good shots, some interesting shots. And then, yeah, like I said, there's some things that I've watched. I just, even back then, I found myself thinking that is not how space works. But anyway, that's what it is. Let's see. I'm going to be jumping around here from one movie to the next. Okay. And I'm going to be going to stop the trailer there. All right. The next movie I want to share with you all and chat about some is another great movie from the 80s, 1987. This particular movie is one of the most quotable movies out there. I mean, chances are, if you know this movie, you can probably quote a number of lines from it. I'm going to go ahead and share the IMDb for it. The Princess Bride. Let's see, those little tags here go. Adventure epic, fairy tale, fantasy epic, quest, swashbuckler, sword sorcery, teen fantasy. A bedridden boy's grandfather reads him the story of a farm boy turned pirate who encounters numerous obstacles, enemies, and allies in his quest to be reunited with his true love. Directed by Rob Reiner, written by William Goldman, starring Cary Elwes, Mandy Patinkin, and Robin Wright. And like I said, one of the best quotable movies you can think of. I mean, here I am just looking at the stills from the movie, and I don't know how many times I've watched this movie. Seriously, every scene, every still I look at, every scene that comes to mind, I can hear the dialogue and the characters in my mind. I wouldn't say I'd have like all the dialogue memorized, but yeah, uh, chances are if you went to a theater that was playing this movie today, you'd probably be surrounded by, an older generation of people, and at some point, people would probably be encouraged to quote along the movie every time one character would say uh, a line. Chances are the audience would also quote that line. Also, one of the best fight scenes in this movie. I think one of the best choreographed fight scenes I've ever seen in a movie. There, of course, is Peter Falk, the grandfather, reading to his grandson, Andre the Giant. This was a fun movie. And I'm going to stop the trailer there because I don't want it to play. Like I said, I don't know how many times I've sat and watched this movie all the way through. Even if I were like flicking around channel to channel and I came across this movie, chances are I would sit down and just start watching this movie, no matter where it was. Like if I was just flicking from channel to channel looking for something to watch and this was playing, yep, I'd probably find myself sitting down and watching it all over again. The cultural impact on this, just something that's so influential. Let's see. Where do I want to go to next? Okay. This is a fun movie. 1980. This movie was a sci fi adventure, a very high degree of camp. And I am talking about Flash Gordon. Again, one of those movies that you can just watch and rewatch. You don't care how campy it is, how off the wall crazy it is. It's a great watch, well casted, and one of the best soundtracks a movie has ever had. Let's see. A football player and his friends travel to the planet Mongo and find themselves fighting the tyranny of Ming the Merciless to save the Earth. Directed by Mike Hodges, written by Lorenzo Semple Jr., Michael Allen, Alex Raymond, starring Sam J. Jones, Melody Anderson, Max von Sydow. Yeah, if you've never seen this movie, this is a treat. Like I said, it's high camp, fast action, incredibly colorful sets. This is the sort of thing you look back and you think, all these actors and the cast and even the production crew, they probably had a blast making this movie. Well casted all the way around. Brian Blessed, Max von Sydow. Max von Sydow probably playing one of the best villains, Ming the Merciless. And I mentioned the soundtrack. The soundtrack was just incredible. Uh, Queen did, I believe, a couple of movie soundtracks, this being one of them, probably the better of the two that they did, but I'll get to that pretty soon. It leads you to believe that more rock groups should have a hand in scoring and orchestrating soundtracks for movies because Queen did it. Um, Daft Punk did it for Tron Legacy. Nine Inch Nails is actually going to be involved in the soundtrack for Tron Ares. Oh, I definitely have to mute the audio there. The heroes blast off, leave Earth, go to Mongo, get the gist of what's happening. Flash kind of fights to unite the warring factions. Well, not warring faction, but the different factions under Ming's tyranny. Brian Blessed. Timothy Dalton. This is just crazy, campy, fun, and you didn't care if it made any sense. It was just out there. It was enjoyable, colorful. Everything good about the 80s was wrapped up in this particular movie. All right, let's move right along here. 1986. The tagline of this movie: there can only be one. Yep, Highlander. An immortal Scottish swordsman must confront the last of his immortal opponents, a murderously brutal barbarian who lusts for the fabled prize. Great cast all the way around. Directed by Russell Mulcahy, written by Gregory Wyden, Peter Bellwood, and Larry Ferguson, starring Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, and Clancy Brown is one of the best villains I have ever seen. If I ever did a show on the top villains, Clancy Brown's Kurgan from Highlander would definitely be on that list. And of course, there's a number of movies that followed after Highlander, like two, three, four, I don't know how many. I kind of stopped caring after like two or three. Very much like the punchline to the movie, there should have only been one. But like all things from the 80s, Hollywood is apparently intent on remaking the Highlander. So we are going to get a remake or reboot of Highlander with the fellow whose name has escaped me at the moment. Henry Cavill. Yes, Henry Cavill will be playing the title role, the Highlander, and the Highlander reboot movie. Let's see. Where do I want to go to next? Been rambling on here for about 40 minutes. Again, I want to thank you all for catching me, whether you're live looking or you catch me on a replay. I'm just kind of sharing and chatting about some movies that I was kind of nostalgic about. Movies that I remember from my childhood that kind of influenced our culture over the generations. The next one here, let's see, I'll just dive right into it. Ghostbusters, 1984. Three parapsychologists forced out of their university funding set up shop as a unique ghost removal service in New York City, attracting frightened yet skeptical customers. Directed by Ivan Reitman, written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver. Talk about impact on pop culture. Even today, we see influences for Ghostbusters affect many other franchises, like Stranger Things right here. And let's see, there were other sequels. Yeah, here we go. Ghostbusters 2, which is quite enjoyable. Maybe not as good as the first one, but still quite enjoyable. Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is like a true sequel to the second one. This one here that I'm moving my mouse cursor over does not exist. Ghostbusters 2016 does not exist. Let's see. Oh, oops, gone too far. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. That was one that looked fun. I have not checked that out yet, but I'll check that out pretty soon. I only recently caught Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I was quite surprised by it. I was not anticipating enjoying Afterlife as much as I enjoyed Ghostbusters 2 or even Ghostbusters 1, but Yeah, that was a nice follow up to the second Ghostbusters movie. Good soundtrack all the way around, and chances are, if somebody yells out in a crowd, "Who are you going to call?" You know the answer to that. Fun, fun, quirky movie. Definitely has a comedy element to it, action, let's say high concept comedy, quirky comedy, supernatural fantasy, sci-fi. Yep, got a little bit of everything in there. A true classic. Let's see, as I am hopping around all over my little list of movies to yammer on about. Let's see. All right, the granddaddy of them all. If you talk about a movie that influenced the culture even back then and still reverberating even today, I'd have to say the biggest one out of this lot has been the original Star Wars 1977, a movie that to this day I can still remember sitting in a cool, dark theater on a hot summer day in Texas, just truly not prepared for what I was about to watch as a youngster. Oh, I see in a chat, Dad Man Joaquin. Hello there. Good to see you here tonight. Thank you for joining me. I'm kind of rambling on about some movies I remember from my youth and kind of chatting about how they uh, impacted the culture and influenced cultures from one generation to the next, and kind of how we see things today. And I'm just all over the place. But that's cool. Thank you for joining me. If you got any movies you remember from your youth that you still find yourself thinking about, feel free to share. I'd love to see what anyone out there remembers from their youth. What do you still fondly remember? But Star Wars, 1977. Yes, we've had Star Trek in 1977. We've had Doctor Who from Britain. We've had so many science fiction movies and TV shows in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but nothing really prepared us for the cultural impact that was Star Wars. Now, very much like Star Trek, I'm not really going to get into the current state of Star Wars because, like many fans out there, I'm not too thrilled about the state of Star Wars right now. But uh, the original Star Wars, yeah, I have so many happy, fond memories of Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi. Those were fun. They were, they just took you away. They sparked your little imagination as a youth back then, and just made you glued to the screen, just captivated by everything that was unfolding. Oh yeah, Dad Man saying from our youth, Star Wars, we didn't watch many movies. Oh, that's understandable. Yeah. Oh, and oh, I think the cantina scene was a shocker to most because of the strange looking aliens and the music. Yeah. Yeah, at that time there was nothing like Star Wars. It, like I said, it made its impact from the very first opening scene of the ships flying through space, and then the Star Destroyer following another smaller ship, just rumbling right across the screen. The sound of blaster fire being exchanged between the two, and then it kind of settled down from there. Where you settle on a young man, Luke Skywalker, as he would start his hero's journey. I mean, this is an incredible hero's journey. It hit on so many themes: the hero's journey, the growth of a character, basic themes such as good versus evil. I mean, you can just go on and on. Many people have pontificated a great deal about the themes and such behind Star Wars. Um, Depending on where you read and what you read, George Lucas, I believe at the time, did not have much uh, hope that it would catch on, but I believe he was kind of surprised that it did catch on. And fortunately for all of us, it caught on like wildfire and just took off because, of course, we have so much media out there right now just based on this one franchise: movies, TV shows, comic books, novels, yeah, uh, coffee mugs, lunch boxes. I mean, if you can think of it, chances are somebody somewhere has slapped a Star Wars logo on it and sold it. Like Star Wars bed sheets, Star Wars toys. Being a youth back then, you probably have fond memories of grabbing the Sears toy catalog and flipping through it, looking at the toy section for the Star Wars toys. Maybe it was a Montgomery Ward's catalog back then. One thing you could say about Star Wars that it made fans, mm, I don't want to say hoarders, even though I'm going to say hoarders. It's like we collect everything, anything and everything that has Star Wars on it. Toys, action figures, comic books, novels, anything and everything. Laser discs. If you have a laser disc player, or you grew up at that time when laser discs were a thing, you might have had Star Wars on laser disc. You might be like me, still have Star Wars on Laserdisc. But yeah, it's one of those things that just transcended generation. Something that you could enjoy with friends, family. Fathers could enjoy watching with their sons, their children. Plus, it launched the careers for Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford had many pretty good roles before Star Wars, working with George Lucas, but it was Star Wars that really put him on the map out there. Let's see. Let's see. I've gone through the 10 movies. Well, 9 of the 10 movies I was chatting about tonight. The last one, the last movie I'm going to chat about tonight, also starring Harrison Ford, one that really put him on the map. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. Directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Lawrence Kasdan, George Lucas, and Philip Kaufman, starring Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, and Paul Freeman. 1936, archaeologists and adventurers of the U.S. government hired Indiana Jones to find the Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis could obtain its extraordinary powers. And this was such a fun movie. Very much like Star Wars, it had its impact. Even today, it's stood the test of time. It was quite an enjoyable romp back then. Uh, Followed by 2 sequels that were quite notable. They were, I'm trying to find the words to describe them. There was, of course, Indiana Jones and a Temple of Doom. Oh, here we go, right here. Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom. That was kind of a fun side adventure for the character, and then that was followed by Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, with Sean Connery playing Indiana's father, and that was a great ending to the trilogy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's two more movies after the Last Crusade, but they don't exist to me. uh, I've watched that. What was it? Oh, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I've seen that all of one time. One time, really. That once is enough for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I have not seen the fifth one, and I will honestly never watch the fifth Indiana Jones movie. Honestly, three were good. You had Raiders of the Lost Ark, great adventure yarn about an archaeologist in 1936. You had Temple of Doom, and then you had the Last Crusade. That was a nice ending to the Indiana Jones trilogy. Crystal Skull kind of modernized the character or moved his character forward to like the 50s or 60s. But I think characters like Indiana Jones really work best if you keep them in their original time period. If you kept Indiana Jones in the 30s and just told stories and tales of Indiana Jones from that time period, that's probably when the character really worked best. Now, the great thing about some of these movies, like Indiana Jones and even Star Wars and Flash Gordon, is that they have their roots in the old cliffhanger serial films from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They kind of have their roots back in that period of time when you go to the movie theater and enjoy a Saturday matinee. And between movies, you would have like newsreels or cartoons or whatnot. And then you would have maybe a 10, 15, 20 minute short film that almost always ended on a cliffhanger. These were like the start of the they were called movie serials back then, or chapter plays, or film series, or just serials. But yeah, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Flash Gordon, those movies owed a lot to that genre of film from way back when. So they kind of carried the concept forward of having a swashbuckling hero going on an incredible adventure, making friends, the good guys fighting against the bad guys, and saving the day, basically. I mean, these were movies that were just fun to watch. Movies that we really don't get that much of today. Just a plain, clean, simple movie that's enjoyable to watch, that doesn't hit you over the head with some kind of message or try to get you to ponder something it wants you to ponder or pontificate about or what have you. No, these movies were just fun, popcorn, serial type movies, something you can sit in a theater for a couple of hours and just enjoy the wonder of it all. Like I said, I get kind of nostalgic about this because some of these movies I've shared with uh, family members that are unfortunately no longer around. So I'm spent some of the day thinking about the past, getting kind of nostalgic, thinking about movies that I enjoyed as a youth, movies that had their impact on the culture at that time, and how that impact kind of reverberated through the generations, through the decades. It's not just my generation, Gen X, it's Gen Y, Z, millennial, what have you. Everyone has those films from their childhood that they can reflect upon, think about. Maybe in the case of some movies like The Princess Bride, you can still finally think about movies and just find yourself quoting lines from that movie, line after line after line, or even thinking about the music We had a number of movies back then that had such wonderful music, like Flash Gordon and Highlander, both soundtracks scored by Queen. We had a pretty amazing soundtrack with the Ghostbusters movie with Tron. The Princess Bride, I believe, was all scored by Mark Knopfler of the Dire Straits. Indiana Jones, Star Wars had wonderful, wonderful orchestrated soundtracks. It's kind of like a bygone time that we don't really get that much of today, because everything today, by today's standards, feels overly produced. And some of the enjoyment is lost, it feels like. There's some movies I do find myself looking forward to, like, well, the third Tron movie, Tron Ares. I'm kind of curious about that. The trailer for it looked interesting. It kind of follows on the storyline from Tron Legacy, of course, and there might be some things in Tron Ares that kind of touch on the animated series Tron Uprising. Um, the upcoming remake of Highlander with Henry Cavill. That could be interesting. I'm not big on remakes or reboots or reimaginings or re this or re that, but Henry Cavill and a remake of Highlander, okay, that could be interesting. But yeah, we won't get movies like these anymore. Yeah, we'll get new movies, but the sheer fun, excitement, and enjoyment, it's not quite the same. Oh, I see in the chat, Deadman saying his music felt connected to the scene, which made it more engaging and enjoyable. Yes, yes. Yeah, music makes a movie, definitely. If it's scored poorly, then it really affects the movie as a whole. But anyway, let's see. I was kind of going through. I started making a list of movies to talk about tonight, and before I knew it, I had like a pretty good list of about a dozen movies. But if I went beyond a dozen or even a couple of dozen, that would be kind of unwieldy. Uh, I guess honorable mentions. If I were to talk about honorable mentions of movies that made their cultural impacts, let's talk about the first movie blockbuster, the movie that made the summer blockbuster a thing. And that is, let me go ahead and just pull this up. This will be an honorable mention because I really didn't touch on it tonight in detail. Okay, here we go. Honorable mentions. And I will stop the trailer playing here. Jaws, 1975. When a massive killer shark unleashes chaos on a beach community off Long Island, it's up to a local sheriff, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer to hunt the beast down. Jaws. Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, directed by Steven Spielberg. This was it. I mean, before Star Wars hit the theaters, this movie, this really created the summer blockbuster event movie. And that what people really didn't think about. Oh, go see a movie in the summer. It's blockbuster season. Okay, what movies out there? Now people didn't think about that in the 70s. Not until 1975, when this movie was released, it became a hit. It started the whole trend of the summer blockbuster. Of course, Jaws was quickly followed by Star Wars in 1977. And ever since, we look to the summer movie season for the next summer blockbuster. What is out there? What is coming next? Let's see, what else is there? Going over my small list of honorable mentions. Okay, this is a good one. This movie, next movie I'm going to talk about is just one of those crazy off the wall movies. 1986, buddy comedy, satire, teen comedy, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. A brash, cocky high school senior, tired of skipping school to spend a boring day at home, is determined to enjoy an epic day roaring around his favorite Chicago sights, enlisting his best friend and girlfriend to join him on the adventure. Now, this was a crazy movie because you think about all the things you wanted to do as a teenager in high school, and Ferris Bueller pretty much did it. It's like a fantasy of things that will never happen in real life, but somehow Ferris Bueller as a character did it all. I was kind of thinking about this off and on earlier today, and for me, it seemed like you could say the audience watching this is very much like Cameron here. Cameron, Ferris Bueller's best friend, Cameron. The audience is like Cameron. We're just there. We're watching Ferris Bueller. It's Ferris Bueller's world, and we are just in it, watching it unfold. The craziness that follows Ferris Bueller on his day off playing hooky from high school. Uh, if you were to make a list of movies that kind of defined Gen X, Ferris Bueller's Day Off would definitely be one of them. Directed by John Hughes, written by John Hughes, starring Matthew Broderick, Alan Ruck, and Mia Sara. Yeah, one of those. I don't know, like so many great movies from that time period. I don't know how many times I've just sat and watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off all the way through. Those were two of the honorable mentions I've had for tonight. After talking some about the my short list of my list of 10 movies in no particular order that I kind of remember from my childhood, and as I found myself thinking about them earlier today, some and about how they influenced the culture and how they in turn were influenced by the culture from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. The 70s and 80s and 90s were a great period of time for entertainment. TV, movies, nothing like it. It was a great time to be alive back then and watch all these for the first time. But let's see. I've come to the end of my list, and I'm going to wrap the show up for tonight. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight, whether live, lurking, or you catch this on a replay. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. As always, if you like it, hit that like and subscribe and share. And if you want to share a movie or TV show that you remember from your youth, please put that in the comments because I'd be interested in reading up on what other people enjoyed from their youth, whether the 60s, 70s, or 80s or whatnot. Let's see. Everyone join me tonight. Thank you so much. Dad Man Walking, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Cool to see you here. And let's see. What will I be doing the rest of the week? Tomorrow I'll be on Comic Relief Crusaders live stream, 2 p.m. Central Time, my time. And whenever that is, depending on wherever you are, feel please catch that because that's an enjoyable show. Let's see, trying to decide if I'll have the free time to get back to my comic book live streams on Saturday afternoons. I used to do a live stream on Saturday afternoons everything comic book and comic book related. I'm hoping to get back to that pretty soon. I might do that, if not this coming Saturday, maybe the Saturday after. But with that said, thank you all for joining me tonight. Until next time, everyone,